Yeah, well, it's in pockets, right? So RFID
Okay.
is much more um, prevalent, bigger ROIs in fashion, luxury. I mean,
Sure.
RFID is all over the place, as you guys started this
Right.
conversation with. It's in the warehouse, it's in loss prevention systems. But when you're talking about the visionary stuff that Gustav is doing, and he's
Yeah.
great at talking about it, by the way, he tells the story like no one else. Um, you're talking about where the RFID tags make sense to be placed. So
Mhm.
fashion, shoes, things where there's decent enough margins to pay for all the technology, and you can get that real-time inventory availability. So what Gustav and H&M are doing is overhead RFID, next gen RFID. So what's been around for a long time is handheld RFID, where you can
Mhm.
walk around and I can get a sense of what's there if I'm in the vicinity. But the step up, the game changing stuff that the trend setting retailers are doing is overhead RFID. I know where everything is on an XY coordinate in the store. And that's what they're doing. And then if you take an application like ours, gStore, I think we're still the only one that has, hundreds of stores deployed in production with overhead RFID, and you can link that to all the tech, right? So the
Right.
possibilities are endless when it comes to, smart mirrors, sensing, hooking it up with video capture, the existing video
Mm.
cameras that are in the store to create different insights and signals for the store managers or the corporate office or the merchandising team.
And
So
and
it,
what
it
are
is
they?
it is
Yeah,
game changing.
I was gonna say, Troy, like go even deeper into like what they're able to do that they weren't able to do before. Like what kind of visibility is this giving them about like how people are interacting, in a physical environment in a way that previously we could only tell from what they were, like we'd only be able to get that level of detail what they're taking into a fitting room, for example. We'd only be able to do that if we were watching that activity online. We wouldn't be able to do that in a physical environment. But what does this unlock for them?
So if you think about my omni-channel days way back when, it was kind of a thing to figure out, do you have inventory or not, like binary in the store. So
Hmm.
I'm on the website, I'm on the app. Does the store have inventory? Yes or no? And then we gravitated towards, we have 10 of these, but the retailer probably had 15. They just are being
Hmm.
very
Hmm.
careful, right, with safety stock, and they don't want somebody to be disappointed. And so now this technology, when combined with the software and the overhead readers, you know exactly how much inventory you have, 98%. So think of a constant rolling cycle count.
Hmm.
With the RFID of 2 years ago, you still had to go around cycle counting and making sure
Yep.
you updated all your counts. This is just done. It's done. Now, of course,
Wow.
they all have trust issues, so they'll go audit and just make sure everything's working. That's just always going to be the case, right?
Sure, sure.
But because they know um, where everything's at and how much they have, you now create a situation that we were aware of and we put in our software roadmap, but I don't think anyone knew how important it would become is replenishment from back of the store to the front of the store or from one area of
Hmm.
the to another area of the store. So now you can have a situation where your top selling item in that Soho store, for example, might be a jacket on a mannequin with four of them laying there on the display in the front, and they run out, right? So 2 years ago, they're just out, and maybe the store manager notices it after an hour or two. Now we know before they run out, or danger, danger, if they've already run out, go bring that to the store. It's a
Mhm.
priority task in the software to bring those items up to the front. And we have customers that have told us, this is changing the conversion rate in the stores that operate this technology.
Yeah. Yeah. The way I'd sum up what you say, Troy, is like the move from handhelds to overhead arrays, it gives you a perpetual state of inventory in your store, right? Like constant state of inventory versus the handhelds are done at a single point in time. And yeah, so for that reason, you don't get an understanding or an alert, which is kind of the smartness of the system too, right? You don't get an alert when something's out of stock on the floor and sitting in your back room. And the other part too, Troy, if I'm not mistaken, it also helps you locate the product in the back room too, because of the overhead array. Like you can get a good sense of where those products are, which in an apparel operation is not always the easiest thing to figure out if you've worked those back rooms. Is that also right?
Exactly. And so if you think about it in our application, gStore, we load the planograms, right? So
Okay.
they're digitally loaded. So you have a 3D map of
Wow.
or back room, front room, omni-channel area, if you have one of those. And so you have the location with a visual. So it really makes the store associate experience way better because they just don't have to do any guesswork. They get within 3 feet, 5 feet, depending on the store, of exactly where the product is, and they can kind of see where it looks like in that area. So that's available. And then Anne, you mentioned the back room
Yeah.
or the changing room. They so now you can be in the changing room, you can have the medium, you can ask the mirror, can you find me some shoes to match this? And can I get a small instead of a medium? And the associate can bring that to you without any verbal or any other conversation, just because the availability of where that, the connection of the tech and then knowing where the inventory is makes that all possible.
Right. Or not having to open the door half dressed and find an associate,
Yeah,
which
keep
who
the
may or
door
may not
locked.
be there either. Right. Yes. Right.
Yeah, keep the